It was a rainy Tuesday evening in Accra, and Kwaku Mensah was cold, soaked, and hungry. The rainwater dripped through the holes in his broken umbrella, running down the back of his neck. He stood by the roadside, his sandals worn thin, watching the street bustle slow as the downpour grew heavier. That's when the black SUV stopped across the street. The door opened, and a woman stepped out, tall, confident, wrapped in a bold Kent coat that shimmered in the rain. She was the kind of woman whose presence turned heads before she even spoke. Kwaku didn't know her name yet, but this was Madam Adwoa, one of the most powerful businesswomen in the city. She glanced in his direction, her eyes lingering for just a second before turning away. Kwaku didn't think much of it. The rich noticed the poor all the time, and then forgot about them a second later. But something about the way she looked at him made his stomach twist, like this wasn't the last time he'd see her. Kwaku lived with his mother, Mama Oma, in a small wooden room behind a mechanic's shop. The place was barely big enough for their bed, a wobbly table, and a kerosene lamp that smoked when it burned too long. Mama Oma sold roasted plantain by the roadside, and Kwaku helped her whenever he wasn't out hustling for small jobs. Life was hard, but Mama Oma's spirit was stronger than hunger. She'd always say, "Kwaku, we may have nothing, but we must still have dignity." That night, she mended his torn shirt while he set out plantain chips to sell the next morning. The rain drummed steadily on the corrugated roof. Kwaku glanced at her tired hands and promised himself, one day, she would never have to walk like this again. He didn't know how, but he believed it with all his heart. The next morning, the rain had eased into a light drizzle. Kwaku was crossing the road near Makola Market when he heard a scream. A little girl had run into the street, chasing a fallen doll, and a silver Lexus was bearing down on her, fast. Kwaku didn't think. He dropped his tray of chips and sprinted into the road, scooping her up just before the car screeched to a stop. The driver's door flew open, and out stepped Madam Adwoa. Her eyes went wide when she saw Kwaku holding the trembling child. "That's my daughter," she gasped, rushing forward. She pulled the girl into her arms, then turned to Kwaku. Rain dripped from his hair onto his shirt, but he just smiled faintly and said, "She's safe now, madam." Adwoa studied his face for a moment, and something in her expression shifted. That afternoon, Kwaku found himself sitting in a place he had only seen on TV, Madam Adwoa's home in East Legon. The walls were painted in warm gold tones, the floor gleamed like glass, and the furniture looked too expensive to touch. Her daughter, little Abina, peeked shyly from behind a chair, clutching the same doll she had chased into the road. "Sit, please," Madam Adwoa said, motioning to a plush armchair. "I owe you for saving my daughter." Kwaku shook his head. "No need, madam. Anyone would have done the same." "Not everyone," she said softly, her eyes fixed on him. "Tell me about yourself." As he spoke about his mother, the plantain stand, the odd jobs, she listened without interrupting. When he finished, she said simply, "I think I can help you." Before he left, Madam Adwoa handed Kwaku a white envelope. "For you and your mother," she said. He hesitated, but she pressed it into his hand. "And Kwaku, I'd like you to come work for me. There's more in you than selling chips by the roadside." He nodded slowly, tucking the envelope into his pocket. As he walked out through the grand gates into the cool evening air, his heart pounded. Was this the break he had been waiting for, or the start of something he couldn't yet understand? Kwaku's first day at Madam Adwoa's mansion felt like stepping into another world. He arrived in a clean, borrowed shirt Mama Oma had washed twice the night before. The female security guard scanned him from head to toe before letting him in. Inside, the compound stretched wide, with a fountain splashing gently in the center. Flower beds lined the walkway, and the air smelled faintly of jasmine. Madam Adwoa met him at the door. "You'll start by helping my driver with errands, then assist the house staff," she said. Kwaku nodded, eager but cautious. He knew a place like this had rules, and one mistake could send him right back to the streets. It didn't take long for Kwaku to notice the stairs. In the kitchen, two maids paused their chopping whenever he walked in. At the gate, the gardener, a stocky woman with sharp eyes, would mutter under her breath. They weren't unkind to his face, but he could feel it, the jealousy. Why him? One maid whispered to another. She could hire anyone, but she picked some street boy. Kwaku ignored the comments. He was here to work, not to make friends. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was waiting for him to make a mistake. The one person in the house who made Kwaku feel welcome was little Abina. Every afternoon, she'd run to him when he returned from errands, her small hands clutching a new toy or book. They'd sit on the floor, building block towers or reading stories until Madam Adwoa came in from her office. One day, Abina looked up at him and asked, "Will you always stay here?" Kwaku smiled gently. "If your mommy lets me." She grinned, leaning against his shoulder. "I hope she does." That bond, innocent as it was, didn't go unnoticed, and not everyone was happy about it. One evening, as Kwaku was heading to the quarters, he heard voices by the back gate. The gardener's voice was low but sharp. "That boy is getting too comfortable. Mark my words, this won't end well." The maid replied, "You think Madam doesn't know what she's doing? She's blinded. I've seen boys like him before. They take what they can and vanish." Kwaku stepped back into the shadows. He didn't want to hear more, but deep down, he knew their words could turn dangerous if repeated to the wrong ears. That weekend, Kwaku visited Mama Oma. He handed her some money from his first week's work, but she barely looked at it. "Kwaku," she said quietly, "you must be careful. Not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well." He tried to brush it off. "Mama, Madam Adwoa has been good to me. I'm not saying she hasn't. But in a big house like that, you'll be tested. People will try to pull you down. You must keep your head low and your heart clean." Kwaku nodded. He knew she was right. As he walked back to the mansion that evening, he wondered if trouble was already closer than he thought. It was a Wednesday evening when Madam Adwoa's voice rang through the mansion. "My gold necklace, it's gone." The staff gathered in her bedroom. The jewelry box sat open on the dresser, empty. The gardener spoke first. "Madam, I saw that boy, Kwaku, coming out of this room earlier today." Kwaku froze. "Madam, that's not true. You sent me to bring your handbag from here this morning, but I never touched your jewelry." But the gardener pressed on. "Who else could it be? He's been here barely 2 weeks and already." "Enough," Madam Adwoa said sharply. Her eyes were unreadable. The other staff left the room, and Madam Adwoa motioned for Kwaku to sit. "Kwaku," she began, "when I brought you here, I trusted you. This necklace is worth more than anything you've ever owned. I need you to tell me the truth." "I swear on my mother's life, Madam, I didn't take it," Kwaku said, his voice trembling but steady. She studied him for a long moment. "If you didn't take it, then someone is trying to destroy you." Her words brought no relief. He knew exactly who might be behind it, but accusing them without proof would only make things worse. That night, Kwaku went to see Mama Oma. She listened quietly as he told her everything. When he finished, she said, "Son, sometimes the truth doesn't speak loud enough for people to hear it. But you must keep living in a way that proves the lies wrong." Kwaku's chest felt heavy. "But what if she sends me away?" Mama Oma squeezed his hand. "If she's the woman you think she is, she will find the truth herself." The next night, Kwaku couldn't sleep. Something in his gut told him the real thief might strike again. He sat quietly in the dark near the hallway. Around midnight, footsteps echoed softly. From the shadows, he saw the gardener glance around before slipping into Madam Adwoa's bedroom. A faint glint of gold flashed in her hand. Kwaku's heart pounded. He followed silently, just in time to see her place the missing necklace back into the jewelry box. She turned and froze. "Kwaku," she hissed. "If you say a word, you'll regret it." But Kwaku was already stepping back toward the living room to call Madam Adwoa. Moments later, the living room was full. The gardener stood pale and silent, the necklace now in Madam Adwoa's hand. Kwaku explained what he had seen, his voice calm but firm. Madam Adwoa turned to the gardener. "Is it true?" The woman's shoulders slumped. "Yes, madam. I thought if I made him look bad, you'd send him away." The room was silent. Madam Adwoa's gaze shifted back to Kwaku. "I told you, if you were innocent, I'd find the truth. You've earned more than my trust tonight." Kwaku exhaled for the first time in days. He was staying, and now, everyone knew he belonged. A week later, Madam Adwoa called Kwaku into her study. "I'm moving you from house duties to my company's logistics department," she said with a smile. "You'll be working directly under me. I think you're ready." Kwaku blinked in disbelief. "Me, madam?" "Yes, you. You've proven you can be trusted when it matters most. That's more valuable than any skill I can teach." For the first time, Kwaku saw a path, not just out of poverty, but toward a future he could shape himself. With his first full salary, Kwaku didn't buy himself new clothes or a phone. Instead, he walked into Mama Oma's room carrying a brand new sewing machine. "Mama," he said, "no more struggling with old needles and torn thread. From now on, you have everything you need." Mama Oma's eyes filled with tears. She touched the machine like it was made of gold. "My son," she whispered, "you've made me proud." That weekend, Madam Adwoa invited Mama Oma to dinner. The table was full of jollof, grilled tilapia, kelewele, and fresh fruit. Kwaku sat between Mama Oma and Abina, the sound of laughter filling the room. It wasn't just a meal. It was a family, one built not by blood, but by loyalty, respect, and kindness. One evening, Kwaku sat under the mango tree in Madam Adwoa's garden. He opened his notebook and wrote, "Life can change in a moment, but it's character that keeps you where blessings take you. Never let lies or envy pull you from the path of honesty." Abina ran up to him with a wide smile. "Kwaku, come play." He closed the notebook and stood, feeling the warm evening breeze. He knew his journey wasn't over, but now, he had the tools to walk it with his head held high. Kwaku's life had begun with nothing but rain on his shoulders and hunger in his belly. Now, he had a home, a purpose, and people who believed in him. And through it all, he learned one truth. Kindness and integrity will take you further than envy ever will. Wow! What a twist, right? If you enjoyed this Ghanaian drama and want more exciting stories just like it, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next jaw-dropping episode. Your support helps us keep bringing these stories to life. See you in the next one.